And we're live. Welcome everybody to Memoori's Smart Building series of webinars. And this is the last one of 2020. Today, we are talking about verified smart, assessing smart building performance. And specifically, we are talking about SPIRE, the Smart Building Assessment and Rating program that has been brought to market by TIA and UL. So before I introduce my guests, what I want to do is just, give a few notes to everybody so we're all on the same page. First of all, yes, we are recording this session, and I will be posting a video on our YouTube channel later this evening, probably, and then you'll be able to find that on our website. And also, I will make sure as well that everybody who attended gets the message with that as well. There'll be an email out tomorrow. So of course, please share it with your colleagues and listen again if you want to go over anything. Also as well, we will definitely welcome questions. We do want to make this a collaborative session. So, please do put your questions in. The way to do that is going to be through the Q&A button, which you should see at the bottom of your screen. And then I'll receive those and then I'll be able to put them to our guests later on. Because we're going to do this webinar in two parts. The first is going to be a presentation, and then we've left plenty of time for questions at the end. So without further ado, let me please welcome my guests. It's Patrick Sweeney. He's VP of Sales and Marketing at the Telecoms Industry Association, and Thomas Blewett, CTO of UL's Connected Technologies Business Unit. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you, James, and thank you, everybody. Really appreciate the time today. Yeah, so good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you may be dialing in from today. And again, thanks very much for joining our talk today about our program. My name is Pat Sweeney. I'm from the Telecommunications Industry Association, or TIA. A little bit about TIA. TIA has been serving the connected world for over 80 years with approximately 400 members. We bring together information, communication, and technology, or ICT solution and service providers to help guide the industry as we build powerful, secure, trusted, and flexible networks and solutions for globally connected deployments. Our intersecting communities of interest, as you can see here on the screen, include standards development, technology enablement, business performance, and government advocacy. Today, I'm pleased to discuss our Smart Building program along with Tom Blewett from UL, who I'll turn it over to for a little overview about UL.
Thanks, Pat, and welcome everybody as well to this webinar. It's a pleasure to be speaking to you today. My name is Tom Blewett, as James had said. I'm Chief Technical Officer for UL. And UL is well known as a global safety science leader. The company's been in business for over 125 years and has a global footprint. And as you can see on the screen, I won't read the numbers, has a very large number of staff who are engaged in certainly in safety science, but also the company has a tremendous amount of experience in the technologies and the systems that go into keeping buildings safe, secure, and sustainable. And so while folks know of UL more specifically around safety and some of the majority of the history of UL is very heavily engaged as well in cybersecurity, sustainability, healthy buildings, and other aspects of what ultimately will be outcomes of smart buildings that we're going to be talking about today. So, and we do this work not only in laboratories, but actually out in the field, and we do, thousands and thousands and thousands of inspections and audits. We have large dedicated staff with very strong expertise in the building space. So it's very exciting for UL to partner with the TIA folks and to have launched together the SPIRE Smart Building program. So we'll talk more about the details. And so let me hand this over to Pat to get us kicked off.
Great, thanks, Tom. Yeah, so, we're living in a really important and transitional time in our industry right now. while technology is emerging that's enabling buildings to operate more effectively and efficiently, and as you can see here from the screen, it's expected that by the year 2026, will be quite a large market in the smart building market, well over $100 billion US. But at the same time, right, where operating costs are remaining high and being weighed against, lots of uncertainty in the market due to COVID, uncertainty with the future of the commercial real estate market, right? When we're going to get back to some sense of normalcy and people get back to working in buildings again. And another challenge that's being brought on by COVID is that, much more attention brought on from governments to improve health, safety, and sustainability aspects of buildings. This has brought tenant and occupant health and well-being to the forefront of concerns for landlords and building owners and managers. Yet, at the end of the day, building owners and operators, developers, REITs, and many others need to prioritize and justify investments making in their buildings smarter, and to be in a position to project the return on that technology investment. So while the opportunity is substantial, so are the challenges. Smart building definitions and approaches have historically been and are currently fragmented and not fully comprehensive. And there's a need for common ground to advance that across the industry. And I think that need is of real strategic and global importance to everyone. So that market opportunity is exactly, and fragmentation is exactly why, what led us to put together our Smart Buildings program, and then ultimately launch the SPIRE self-assessment tool with our partner UL. So SPIRE is the world's first objective and comprehensive smart building assessment tool. And furthermore, it's been developed by a team of industry experts to identify the most critical components of smart building technology. We'll go through some of these in the next 20 minutes or so. SPIRE was really designed with our stakeholders in mind. It was designed to help assess the performance and technologies that drive the outcomes of smart buildings. And it's really aimed at improving smart building performance, occupant experience, and ultimately property values. One of the, I think, really unique features of the program is that it provides building owners, operators, REITs, and commercial real estate developers with insights, benchmarks, and roadmaps to help them lower their costs, mitigate their risks, create brand differentiation, and ultimately enhance overall asset value. And ultimately, as we go into 2021, the SPIRE program will begin to be able to provide true benchmarking data for these building owners, helping them truly, get a true assessment of their buildings versus, others in their building class. We sense it's going to be a really, really important aspect of the program going into 2021. So the foundation of the SPIRE assessment tool is really at the assessment criteria framework. While we know there are other assessment tools in the market, SPIRE is truly the first to have a real comprehensive set of criteria to measure and evaluate an entire building. Not just one or maybe a couple sets of criteria. And that assessment criteria, which I think is really important, was developed by a TIA industry working group of more than 60 leading commercial real estate, REIT, asset management, construction, architect, technology, and telecommunication industry leaders. So before I came to TIA, I joined TIA in July of this year. I'd spent over a decade in the telecom, M2M, and IoT space. So what I really love about the Smart Buildings program is that it is essentially and truly IoT in action. And like an IoT solution, smart buildings require an ecosystem of players to thrive. Not just one, solution provider can truly put together a solution, and it's really no different, and in fact, even enhanced or extrapolated in the smart buildings world. So, that smart buildings working group that I mentioned, really represents that ecosystem. In addition to the broad set of assessment criteria that Tom is really going to dive into, I think this aspect is really what sets SPIRE apart from the field. We got some logos on the screen here of some key members of the working group. But as I said, it was made up of over 60 leading organizations. Corning and T-Mobile there at the top, two of our founders. Other companies like you see Microsoft, Rycom, University of Mexico, New Mexico. I'll talk about their case study later on. Legrand, ARUP, many, many more. Companies who were involved in various aspects of the smart building ecosystem. And I think this is really getting this knowledge from the industry experts and spending years on compiling that in working groups is really what made possible for us, together with UL, to create the gold standard for smart building assessment criteria to ultimately improve occupant experience and asset value. Here's just a good visual look at the many, many organizations that help us, get to where we are. And, I'd like to, make sure I personally thank each and every one of them, because it's been extremely important in putting together the SPIRE self-assessment tool. So that working group determined in their long hours of work that there were really, to be a truly holistic evaluation of smart buildings, there needed to be 6 distinct areas that needed to be addressed. Those include life and property safety, health and well-being, power and energy, cybersecurity and sustainability, and the connectivity technology that really brings them all together, underpins them all. So I'll tell you more about SPIRE and how this framework, fueled the SPIRE assessment tool and rating system. I'm going to turn it over to Tom.
Thanks, Pat. If we can go on to, as Pat said, I'll bring us a little more under the hood. But let me first just acknowledge that you may be asking why do we call this smart building program SPIRE? And so throughout history, the spire top of a building has made that structure stand out from all the rest in that community, and actually, in the distance. And the idea is that that spire made that building appear special and to be worthy of attention. It called attention to itself, and so that idea, that architectural feature, really was attractive to us in terms of looking at the smart building assessment program that we were developing. And we had a similar goal. We wanted to enable the building as an asset, to stand out. And we began working on this prior to the pandemic, but it's become even more essential in the real estate space to stand out amongst the competition. And so our program is designed to essentially raise the visibility of a smart building, the smart building investment, and then the smart buildings outcomes, which we think are very important, so that the marketplace can see in a structured and a supported way, that these outcomes have been achieved, and that tenants and owners and operators can all see that and see it through the means that we make available through the program. If you want the next slide, Pat. So the smart building Pat showed this slide, but the smart building program essentially provides a roadmap to as he said, holistically look at a smart building as an asset. So a smart building is composed of lots of systems, subsystems, each of which may be smart in their own way. And where we are in the market today is we're able to integrate, interconnect, and then actually amplify the benefits of some of the sensors and other technology that's been employed in these buildings to be able to achieve outcomes more substantive than you might have been able to achieve strictly by the installation and investment in energy efficiency technology or automated lighting or some other aspects, or the materials that go towards ensuring sustainability. So our criteria is first, it's comprehensive by the selection of these different areas. It's objective, so it's not just the building owner operator's opinion, but it's backed up by that very large group of experts that Pat mentioned. And it also looks ahead. And so today is not the end game. It's really what does this technology enable in the future and going forward. And so our program here is designed really also to help folks get to where they really want to be with this technology. If you go on to the next slide. So the SPIRE program essentially has two key components to it. The first is the self-assessment, and this is the product that was launched at the end of September of this year. And this self-assessment, as the name suggests, is an opportunity for a building owner, an operator, even a tenant, to go through in a structured way the criteria that we just described, to be able to look at the current state of their building, the investment in smart technology, and to be able to generate a report that they can use to either make a case for where the claims that they're making, or use that to help them decide in future planning and investment. A little more on that in a moment. And then the second component is the SPIRE verified assessment and rating. And this leverages the same criteria that's part of the self-assessment, but now it's no longer just the owner, the tenant, the operator's opinion, but now you have the benefit of an in-depth audit by UL. And the idea here is that as you make these very large investments at times, you want to be able to back them up objectively and with additional support that can be provided by the combination of TIA and UL, through this program. So the end result of a verified assessment is a rating for the building, basically describing where on the journey towards smart outcomes the building happens to be. And we make a plaque available that uses the UL verified mark, so that it's not just your opinion, but that supported by the SPIRE program. The rating would be on there, and then similar information would be provided and online through our portal and other venues, so that you're able to leverage the outcome here from the verified assessment to be able to make your case in the marketplace to raise visibility for your building as an asset. The criteria essentially, again, between the two are the same, between the self-assessment and the verified assessment. But the big difference is the objective evidence-based step that's taken by an auditor walking through the building and looking for the details to support this information. Now the program, by doing this, we believe that you're creating value, because not only for the tenants who may benefit from it, but those who may invest in the property, the owner operators who are looking to lease space and so forth. Because number one, it's giving you and I used that word before, roadmap. It's giving you the insights into these holistic criteria that the marketplace will be looking for to see whether or not you're achieving smart outcomes. And so it allows you to look at those outcomes and how you achieve them. It actually allows you to be able to see where perhaps you may want to invest further in the technology, so that you may be great in energy efficiency and perhaps could use some help in cybersecurity. And so the self-assessment in particular allows you to see that, and it maybe helps you in determining where you might want to go forward and invest. And we believe the data suggests that that it's not just investing in one area, but investing across those 6 criteria is really what the marketplace is expecting in terms of ultimately outcomes from smart buildings. And then obviously, if one achieves these results, the information on the buildings, the information on how the tenants are experiencing those buildings is very helpful in our program. The aspirational piece, to have the ability to not only achieve an outcome today, but to achieve perhaps even greater outcomes tomorrow, allows the building to continue to progress in achieving even in further greater outcomes. So these are the insights that we hope that this smart building program will provide. Now, let me just give you a little view into the questions that we ask. If you go next slide, and these are just some samples. There are some 150 questions or so that compose the criteria for in total for the 6 areas, and obviously each area, the questions dive into the specifics of that area. So building systems integration is really important for power and energy, and whereas perhaps life and property safety, looking for enhanced access to emergency services, 911 in the U.S. Let me just note too that this is not, in the case of life and property safety and some of these other areas, this is not regulatory compliance. This is outcomes that are above and beyond what you absolutely have to do as a minimum for regulatory compliance. But as you see through some of these other questions, again, we look at, and I tried to sample, different subject areas. So we may be looking from a health and well-being perspective. What are the desired outcomes that the building is and the infrastructure is designed to achieve? How are they being attained? How are you monitoring? How is the tenant feedback impacting what happens going forward? For the connectivity backbone, that's so much it's such a critical part of enabling all of this. So we'll look at not only Wi-Fi coverage and the like, but the underlying infrastructure, the wired and other technology that enables all of these potential smart outcomes. Cybersecurity is a critical area. You may have cybersecurity kind of confidence in your HVAC system, but what about the LED addressable driver, in your building, and is that a gateway into other systems? And so again, like a lot of these, the holistic look is really essential to fully appreciate whether or not you've achieved these smart outcomes. And then, of course, sustainability. There's a number of different measures of that, and in this case, we leverage even the systems that and programs that are already existing in the marketplace. So we're not duplicating or trying to usurp other very valuable programs that you may be familiar with, but we're trying to amplify the value of those programs. And the last comment I'll have on these questions is that I didn't put the answers or the prompts, but each of the questions essentially prompts then the auditor or the self-assessor to indicate where they stand in terms of answering the question. And it ranges from, hey, we're on the beginning of the journey towards smart outcomes, or we're very high performing on the basis of this technology and the certain types of outcomes, and perhaps the ability to learn and adapt as a result of the technology. So there's answers that cover the range of possible outcomes and for each one of these questions, and collectively those answers then add up to where you stand in terms of the 6 criteria. And then for the verified assessment, ultimately they'll also add up to determine what the overall building as an asset rating is. So those are some of the details. There's a lot more, but let me at this point, I think, turn it over again to Pat, who can then speak about the how this worked with some of our partners, our pilot partners.
Great, thanks, Tom. Really great in-depth view of what SPIRE can offer its users. Yeah, so we're just going to go, high level through a couple of specific examples, to really help us learn more about how, owners and operators can harness SPIRE for their smart buildings. So we're going to share the example of 2 of our pilot partners who actually were both also part of the working group to help build the tool. So Corning Optical Communications and University of New Mexico. I'm going to go through these at, a bit of a high level. It's some really good information here, but so with the construction of their Corning's new optical communication headquarters in Charlotte, North Carolina, they really wanted to build a state-of-the-art facility that drove the transformation of traditional construction methods, and and really be an example of future smart buildings. As you can, you look at it and you look at the pictures of the outside and the inside. This new smart building is a modern, really more efficient workspace for their employees. Their fiber at the edge architecture delivers unlimited bandwidth and power to the edge of the network where the devices and applications are connected. But really, the key was by combining AV, security, cellular connectivity, and Wi-Fi all on the same network. They were able to reduce resources and materials quite a bit. 75% less cable needed to be used and 40% less pathway. And the result really was a more capable network that accommodates the way they work and connect in 2020 and beyond. And it can be easily be upgraded for future technologies, like as 5G becomes more pervasive and more IoT applications and Wi-Fi 6. So TIA and UL was really able to help them evaluate and verify that they were in fact meeting or exceeding their very comprehensive framework of assessment, using our criteria to make sure that they were completing their goals. And in fact, for this building, SPIRE did help verify for them that this building was in fact, a future-ready smart building. So they had a great experience doing this, and we're very thankful that Corning took their new headquarters and was able to show us a great example of how SPIRE was able to, in this case, really verify that they were hitting their goals and that they're ready for the future of technology. Second example was University of New Mexico. For those who don't know, University of New Mexico is a very large academic institution, about 27,000 students, 5,000 faculty members. Their campus has over 400 buildings on it. And they wanted to assess one of their newest buildings. It's 137 square foot, the Physics and Astronomy and Interdisciplinary Science Building, easy for me to say, right? It's also named PAÍS. PAÍS actually being the Spanish word for country or nation, does bring together the University of New Mexico's Department of Physics and Astronomy with research centers from across the campus, including their geography and environmental studies, biology, earth and planetary services, anthropology, and chemistry and chemical biology. Now this center of excellence with some of the world's most advanced equipment and top talent for study and research, PAÍS fosters lots of collaboration amongst not only University of Mexico students, but other experts around the country and the world, and puts it all under one roof. The university knew that they had a special building here. They knew it was a smart building. It was the jewel of their campus, if you will. And they wanted to assess just how well it is performing and understand, again, kind of like Corning, and did they meet the goals when they built this building? They want to know what they did do, any things maybe they didn't do, or things that they could be doing in the future to achieve the smartest of building outcomes. On top of this, just like the rest of us in the world, and especially for universities, they were, figuring out how they could adjust to the impacts of COVID-19 and ultimately provide a safe environment for their students and their faculty to come back to school. They really asked themselves one key question. If we had a smart building, would that help us better address our operations during COVID? When it comes to the COVID-related issues, and by going through the SPIRE self-assessment tool, they were able to reveal, when just how smart the PAÍS building was, especially compared to other buildings that they have on campus. And they're also going to be able to, better implement better properties and security protocols, energy usage reduction, sustainability measures, and then overall health and well-being for their faculty and their students. And one of the things about SPIRE, is it's, obviously, analyzing connected smart buildings, all of this stuff and all of this testing for the SPIRE self-assessment tool is able to be done remotely, making it, simple to use and therefore increasing the ROI by mitigating any labor costs to have human-to-human contact, especially during this time we're living in with the COVID-19 issues that we're all struggling with. I think there's just two great high-level examples of members of our organization, but using the SPIRE self-assessment tool to truly assess where their building does stand and where they can continue to make improvements for it.
Hey, Pat, if I may add too, just before you jump to the next, is these as you just stated, these were two highly motivated, really advanced organizations looking at a proof of concept, and we were able to help, in essence, folks of this nature. A lot of the marketplace is going to be folks who are earlier on the journey, who haven't yet done the investment, and maybe are looking for help to think through on this. And so one does not have to be the in the elite in terms of smart buildings to take advantage of what we're doing here. It actually is a very helpful to look at the elements that we've been describing to help one get ultimately someday to be an elite. And so we're really trying to cover the gamut really of where, again, one might be on their smart building outcome journey. So just I think that's a key point.
Yep, great point. And even further back from that, even the SPIRE assessment criteria can help architects and construction companies just plan their buildings right from the very beginning.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, I think we're going to move on to some Q&A. I did want to, flash this up on the screen. I think James will share it. So as a thank you for participating and joining today's webinar, we do have a discount code that you can use that will give you a 33% discount on the SPIRE self-assessment tool for any buildings you may want to, that you currently own or operate and you want to put through the assessor, or buildings of clients of yours.
Great stuff. Okay. Thanks, guys. Yeah, that's a really great overview. And as you would expect, we've had quite a few questions come in. So we'll definitely get cracking with those. We've got plenty of time. I'll try to get through as many as I can. Unfortunately, I don't think we're going to be able to do everything today. But at the end, like if you haven't had your question answered, and you absolutely want to get it answered, then I'm sure we'll let you know how you can contact the guys. I think first of all, just one from me. I mean, I'm interested. I mean, I know you talked about the self-assessment versus the more involved one. How practically, how does the self-assessment work? Is there a website to go to then, and then it steps you through the process? Can you talk about how someone might go about that?
Yeah, I can do that. So it's a excellent question. So there's what we call a portal. You access it, ul.com/spire, and that will get you to the portal, and then you would register and then follow the prompts on the screen. The software itself is based on a software that we use for other purposes, and so it has a kind of an introductory, add the information about my building, so sort of like a web form type of an input, and then you basically have the option to step through the different criteria, and essentially you take one at a time, the criteria that'll open up these questions that I've mentioned. You would choose the answer that if you're doing a self-assessment that you believe is most appropriate for your circumstance, and then go through all those questions, and then go on to the next criteria, go through those and continue with it. You can go back and review, you can edit and the like. You may want to talk with others inside of the building operation, to get a little more insight, because the more you put into this, the more accurate your input is. Ultimately, the better the quality of the output is as well. And so, and then when you're all said and done, you can print off the results of the information that you provided. There's a graphic that accompanies each of the criteria as you're adding your responses and so forth. It's giving you an indication, from green to red, or red to green, however you want to look at it, just to kind of where you stand in essence in the eyes of the expert groups that put this together. And so if you're getting all greens, you've done a really nice job of attaining outcomes. If you're getting all reds, you got a lot of perhaps investment to make in order to achieve the outcomes that you desire. We believe there'll be a mix of that, and then in that mix is the insights that you'll be able to use to maybe make decisions about investments. And then you close the tool out, and then it's done. So that's how it's expected to work.
Nice. Okay, and then we'll as you said, we'll and you flashed up that code there, so we'll share that. I'll share that in the email tomorrow with everybody if you want to test it out. I guess that's a screenshot that people can see there, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So let's get on to some of your questions. First one here. Does the certification include any ongoing performance metrics, or is it focused on a point in time certification?
Can you clarify that question a little bit?
So I guess that's saying, once you've done that certification, is it just then focused on that particular point in time? Or is part of it ongoing? So, like you can come back to it and update update how your building's performing.
Sure. So the self-assessment is a kind of a self-contained product. So while it's until you quote unquote finish, declare that you're done on that assessment, that you can go in and edit. But it doesn't stay open forevermore. And so the intent here is someone would go in there, they would perhaps provide their preliminary input, and they having gone through that self-assessment, the first pass, they go, all right, I understand how this works. I might need some more information. I want to refine my answer. So you're able to do that, and you can do that until the window closes. So we have so we're in the early stages of the rollout. So we haven't finalized, exactly when that window would close, but it would. So the idea with a self-assessment is, yes, you're taking a snapshot in time, and then at a later date, perhaps after an investment and so forth, you can come back and through a separate transaction, take another snapshot. So that's the model.
Yeah. Interesting question here. To what extent and to what way do you see that this standard rating system is going to interact with other building standards rating systems? And there's a couple of examples given here. LEED, of course, BREEAM, which I think is more the Europe, UK version, WIDE score, etc.
So let me start, and then Pat, if you want to add in as well, please do so. So our SPIRE Smart Building program is intended to provide a kind of a holistic look at the building and the score. And so we look at these other scores, these other rating systems. They're including, there's IoT and security and a whole host of other types of systems, all very good and valuable and so forth. So we see those as actually helping provide the objective evidence that one has achieved certain outcomes. And so to the extent that these other scores are able to do so, we see that there's actually tremendous value in those. So we're not looking to duplicate or replace them, but really to amplify some of what they're able to do, and to do it in a holistic fashion, the building as a whole, as an asset.
Yeah, and I think it takes into account, you showed that slide, right, with the 6 areas as well. So, I think it covers quite a wide range of very interesting parts that other things don't as well. Cybersecurity was one aspect that stood out to me there. Yeah, let me get on with some other questions here. One here, is it possible to see the assessment questions in advance, or is this once you're in, you've set up an account, that's when you can see them?
Yeah, so the current situation is that you do set up the account to get to the questions. we've had this inquiry now more than a few times. So we're looking at being able to enable you to see at least a demo, some aspect of the questions. We don't want to put the entire self-assessment out ahead of the registration process for obvious reasons.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and I also think too, to add to that, you know, maybe as part of the engagement process, if you know, if a potential customer were come to us and, you know, they got a large fleet of buildings that they want to do and they want more, we could certainly work with them individually on the, you know, a demo type environment or atmosphere or webinar to show them more detail before they go ahead and commit.
Yeah. Okay. So that would just be a case of reaching out to someone within the organization who'll help them, who'll help answer those questions.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, let me get on with these. Thanks everyone, by the way, for the questions. There's a lot to get through. Are there any cases yet that show SPIRE supporting higher resale asset value?
Yeah, I think you know, probably the short answer there is not yet, because it was literally, you know, we launched it
days,
September 29th or 27th. So I don't think we're there yet. You know, I think we see all the empirical data and we believe the process will, but we'll see that, I think, as we go into 2021, as we have more people use it. Yeah,
absolutely. Something here. What is the scope of the assessment? Is it only landlord or also includes tenants? They mention area here, but I think that's the general gist of it. And then again, I think that was a point that came into my mind is, you know, do you have any sense who might be the, you know, the stakeholder who's going to really really go with this, really be interested in engaging with SPIRE?
That's a good question, and we spent a lot of time thinking through that. Certainly, if you've got large multi-tenant buildings and so forth, you know, you may actually have a large tenant who wants to drive certain improvements in the building they occupy. So it becomes part of their dialogue, perhaps on leasing space. And so we very much expect that there is a cohort of tenants, if you want, that would look to take advantage. And again, it helps structure the dialogue between them and the leaseholder. Obviously, I think the expectation is the party that's owns the building or has a major stake in the building's value is who's going to be the most typical user of the SPIRE Smart Building Program.
Yeah, and I think to even add to that, so I think certainly yes, the key end customers are those people who are, you know, truly impacted by the value of that building, the owners, the operators, the REITs. But another really, I think, an important, you know, class of well, you know, maybe customers with air quotes, but more like somebody who can derive real value from SPIRE, are the firms who do, you know, architectural or engineering consulting, or things, you know, smart building, you know, firms helping companies, you know, make their buildings smarter. You can leverage SPIRE as a tool and act in a way as either a consultant or a trusted advisor with your customers to help them, you know, understand and see really where their current building or their building design may be lacking in order to be truly a smart building. So, and that's another really important constituents of the program.
And leveraging that, just because we've talked to architects and there's a lament often where you have these great ideas as an architect, and then when you start costing things out, you know, the great ideas begin to fall by the wayside, and because of the reality of, you know, kind of the space. And so again, this is another opportunity really to help, you know, make a case for the value, maybe the long-term value of an investment that might look like that's a great idea, but we don't need to do that now. But now, hopefully, there's more ammunition in the architect's arsenal there to be able to make a case that no, this is an investment that will have value going forward for that owner.
Yeah, right. And I could add to that, let's say some like a systems integrator or master systems integrator, or you mentioned consultant there as well. Some, a smart building consultant who wants to show that they really added value to a particular project. This would be one way to do it. Yeah. Another question here. When will the verified assessment be available? So am I right in thinking then that the self-assessment is available now? People can go on and do that. Is the verified assessment available now as well, or is that coming along a bit later?
Yeah, so the self-assessment went live at the end of September, and so but the verified assessment, we've chosen to wait until early in 2021. We're obviously learning from the feedback we get from the self-assessments. Helps us also, basically look at the questions and how to, is there anything that we can learn from how the questions are answered, and and other feedback that we get from the user community. We've been doing further, if you want research on what's the best way to express where a building, is on the journey towards smart outcomes. And so there's continued work being done there. The expectation is that perhaps sometime perhaps in the second quarter of 2021, we'll have all the information that we need, and then we can actually launch the verified assessment. Unfortunately too, with the pandemic and the circumstances, part of this is also what can we do remotely? What's meaningful with a remote audit? We do that. There's a lot. UL is very much in the remote audit business these days, given the nature of our business. And so it's like, all right, well, what's different? What, and what might we need to do in order to satisfactorily accomplish a remote audit until we can actually put an auditor into the properties themselves. So there's that piece that's also weighing on it.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. There are a couple of questions here as well about fees and structure. I mean, I think you have published, right, the fee for self-assessment. Can you share that?
Yeah.
Yep, so it's $1,499, and as I said, with the Hello SPIRE discount, that would be at $999 for the self-assessment.
Great. Okay, and is that the structure of that? Is that per building? Is it?
Yes, that's per building, right, Tom?
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Okay, great.
And of course, I mean, if you have a fleet of large buildings, we can, there's always room to discuss, volume discounts. But
right.
That's the published
and
price.
Then I guess then of course when you launch the verified version as well, then you'll release that. Well, you can talk about it then. Okay. Thanks again, guys. There's loads of questions, and I'm just trying to get through them all for you.
No problem.
There's an interesting one here. Can anyone become SPIRE advisory or certifier? And you obviously use the example here of the lead AP, well AP practitioner. Will there be a SPIRE AP program?
So we've talked about that as well. And so right now the auditing resources are provided by UL, and probably for the foreseeable future, there are advisory services that logically also it would come from one having done a self-assessment, identifying a need to perhaps make more of an investment or learn more. So right now, I think our expectation is that we're able to service that, with the resources that are available between our organizations. But at the same token, as this grows and as the needs get more sophisticated and where there's special skills and information available in the marketplace, we've thought about as well potentially having others participate. But right now it's a little more in-house.
I do want to just go back to the last question for a second. A correction. It is $14.99 for up to 5 buildings.
Oh, up to 5. Okay, great. Let me get on to, yeah, we've got 10 minutes left, guys. So we'll just keep going through these questions. And again, like, I'm sorry if we don't get to you, but again, we'll make our contact details available. One here that's interesting. It talks about when you mention the outcomes of a smart building. Are there ones, I mean, maybe a bit too in depth, but it's asking if which are the ones that you've defined?
So if you take cybersecurity, for instance, so there are cybersecurity hygiene principles that should be observed in order to be able to protect the systems and data and people's privacy and so forth. So there are known mitigations, if you want, or protections that will achieve the outcome of a level of security, if I can say it that way. And when you look at cybersecurity as a criteria, we're looking for, first, how extensive is your cybersecurity analysis, the footprint of your analysis? Does it include those things where there may be vulnerabilities, where threats may present themselves? And so the outcome there would be, in essence, to meet the expectations, at least for sort of minimum cybersecurity hygiene, but then also kind of raising the level. If you have an operational technology, perhaps that has some safety significance or some other reason why that property may be, experience a threat or an event due to a cybersecurity attack. What are those? What's the consequences? Everybody running out into a dangerous situation. So this is part of the outcome analysis that also is part of each of these criteria. What are the expected outcomes that the technology that's being invested in, or what you have today, or what are those? Do they meet these kind of minimum expectations? And then, kind of in a collaborative way, what are the things that one might need to do to further achieve a higher outcome? So health and well-being, same thing. It's, if it's water quality, or are you looking for more, perhaps, in terms of what's present in the water? Are the necessary monitoring and feedback loops and the like? Do you take into account, again, tenant feedback on taste and odor, even, and things of that nature? So it really varies, the outcomes. And it all begins really with, what is the outcome that the technology is seeking to achieve? Have you met a minimum threshold? And then where beyond that minimum threshold, are you aiming for? And so our experts have given us guidance on how to look at that, and kind of a hierarchy of outcomes. And then that's how we go about applying the criteria in each of those cases.
Yeah, good example. Question here. I think we've kind of already answered this. This is, stop me if I don't get this right, but it's asking how to become a partner and training. Is there training required to be an assessor? So at the moment, we're talking about self-assessment, aren't we? So you can certify your own building. That's correct, guys, isn't it?
Right. Yeah. The expectation is the tool, is self-explanatory. You'd be able to self-assess. We can, of course, help folks to better understand if they need it.
Yeah.
I think, with that said, I'll make a plug for the working group, right? Because like an association like TIA, our standards don't ever, it's never done, right? We're always evolving, and we're going to continue to evolve the assessment criteria that feeds into SPIRE. So a great way to learn more, to be able to be a more of a kind of a value asset to potential customers is to potentially get involved with the working group and be on the front lines of helping to evolve the assessment criteria, and then obviously become a subject matter expert in the tool.
Yeah, I was going to say that. It would certainly improve your understanding of the assessment, of course. Here, interesting question. Are there certification levels akin to what LEED offers in terms of silver, gold, and platinum? And if, well, I guess if yes, what determines that? But also if no, then would you plan to do that in the future?
So for self-assessment, there isn't. Again, we have this, we have kind of a graphic indication as to how you fare at the criteria level. So if you, again, I use cybersecurity or health and well-being, power and energy, you know, so again, we'll indicate where you stand from kind of from a red to a green on that. With the SPIRE verified assessment, the smart building program, there will be levels. So there'll be a threshold. Obviously, you would need to attain a threshold in order to be able to say that your building has the ability to have smart outcomes. And then there's the plan here when this verified assessment program is actually launched is to have several levels above the kind of that threshold where you're able to distinguish, you know, how far along the journey. So from you're enabled, or perhaps you're achieving some level of outcomes, and then ultimately, you know, you're excelling very broadly as a building asset, you know, in most of the outcomes or all of the outcomes. So those details are not finalized yet.
Mm-hmm. Okay, definitely got time for a couple more questions. So I'm trying to make some good ones, and then I'm sorry, guys, we're gonna have to wrap it up. One here, how long, which hopefully is a quick one, how long does a typical assessment take?
Yeah, so the self-assessment is really, yeah, you can zip through 150 questions and as fast as you can work the keyboard. Realistically, you know, to have the value, you know, one should, I would think, you see it, you say, all right, now I understand what I need. You're going to go and gather your information. You're going to talk to people. So you're looking at a week, couple of weeks to I think, to do a reasonable, thorough job. You know, and then yeah, then it's again how much you want to put into it. It could take longer.
Yeah, I think like you said the other day on an internal call, right? You're going to get out of it what you put into it. So by gathering the right people in your organization who have the answers on the different set of criteria is going to help. And by really kind of spending time and diving into those questions, I think you know, the relatively low price should not fool anybody into thinking that it's something that you're just going to zip through in an afternoon, right? You want to really, it's at the end of the day, you know, it'll be garbage in, garbage out. So you put really good content in, you're going to get a really good, valuable assessment.
Yeah, no, of course. Like with most things in life, right? Yeah, yep. Definitely. Yeah, kind of following on from that, I guess like half comment, half question. It seems to me that it would be difficult for one person to have a sufficient grasp of all criteria to properly advise, which I guess is a fair point. So I see an emerging market for SPIRE consultant companies employing specialists in different criteria. What do you think of that?
I think that's logical. I think you know, there are system manufacturers as well who think that they might be able to subsystems who might be able to leverage SPIRE to help them show the value of their systems and achieving the outcomes. So absolutely, there's a market for that. I believe emerging.
Yep.
Good.
I totally agree, and I think that's one of the values that we you know, we talk about with our working group is, you know, for a company who specializes in cable and fiber, you can leverage SPIRE as a tool to help you better serve your customers in that aspect of buildings and so on.
Yeah, fascinating conversation, and guys, I do really appreciate you sparing the time today to come and present this to us. I think that it's a really interesting initiative and one that is going to be useful, right? We're all trying to promote smart buildings, make people understand the value in them. So, you know, congratulations on getting this off the ground.
Yeah, the pleasure was all ours, James. Thank you.
You're welcome. Just to wrap things up, if people did, because unfortunately I didn't get to answer everyone's question or ask everyone's questions. if they wanted to get in touch with somebody to discuss this, what's the best way for people to do that?
So what can we provide you with that contact information, and then perhaps you can put it associated with the webinar on your website, James? Would that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah.
Or I put it in the email tomorrow.
Okay.
So yeah, that will work. So yeah, just to finish off, again, thanks everybody for listening. And the recording will be available shortly, either today or tomorrow. And that will be posted on our YouTube channel, but there will be a link to that on our website. So if you check back on the website tomorrow, you'll definitely see it. Yes, and that really wraps everything up and wraps up the Smart Building Series webinars for this year already. And
we are very thrilled to be your final webinar of 2020.
That's right. So you should be. And of course, we'll be back in the new year with more content for everybody, and hopefully some interesting and thought-provoking smart building information. So yeah, wish everybody happy holidays and yeah, a successful new year.
Same from us. Thank you very much.
Thanks again, guys.
Thank you, and
Have a great
everybody
day.
stay well.